Good afternoon, everyone. This is County Executive Pat Ryan. Thank you for joining us on this cold and rainy fall day. We're going to update you on the COVID situation and also a little bit about how early voting is going. At the high level, I'll say in terms of COVID, things have stabilized a little bit since our last update on Tuesday, which is encouraging news, but we are still seeing a slight increase in overall COVID cases throughout the county, but overall improved from 48 hours ago, so we'll take that as a small victory. By the numbers, here's what we're seeing right now: a total cumulatively of over 2,500 positive cases since the beginning of the pandemic. That is out of nearly 120,000 tested. Good news is that 2,178 recovered. Unfortunately, probably the worst news to share in the last 48 hours is another one of our residents lost to COVID, making now 97 fatalities of Ulster County residents. So of course it's heartbreaking every single time that we have to share this news. And once again, a reminder, we've now had 2 fatalities in the last week or so. A reminder that those fighting against this, especially those in the hospital, are absolutely fighting for their lives, and we send our love and our positive energy and our thoughts to them and their families. In terms of hospitalizations in the county, we're at the same level we were at 48 hours ago. 6 in the hospital, 6 residents in the hospital, one of whom is in an ICU bed, and you can see the trend line there has leveled off right around that same number now for the last several weeks. That is markedly higher than it was throughout the late summer and early fall, so we're watching that carefully and continue to look at that. In terms of overall positive cases, active positive cases, I should say, in the county, we are once again over 200. We're at 259 active COVID cases right now. You can see clearly on the graph that is ticking up, which is cause for concern, and we're continuing to monitor that. Once again, we haven't been above 200 really since July, so that is an indicator of one of the indicators of increased spread of COVID in the county. I do want to give an update here from some of the numbers I shared on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I talked about the fact that one of the larger drivers of our increased positives was some cases at one of our senior facilities, in particular Woodland Pond in New Paltz. Good news to report here in that we initially had 12 residents come back positive in one batch of tests, which was very unusual, particularly because Woodland Pond has done a great job and had not had any residents with positive cases prior to that. So we acted appropriately, took caution, and responded as such, but we also retested all of those residents because it was unusual to see that many positives come back so quickly. The results back from the second round of testing are much better in that there's actually only been 1 of them that have come back positive, 9 negative on retest, and 2 that are still pending. So there are a few cases there between staff and residents, but much fewer than we had initially reported. This is very rare that we do see these false positives, but it's something that we'll continue to work through and address with the labs that we rely on, who are processing a huge volume of tests, but we really have to make sure we get this right. So that is why we retested. Anytime that we see something unusual, we will do that retesting, but until we have those results, of course, we have to act out of caution and take those measures. So I want to thank the leadership at Woodland Pond and all the staff and residents there for working with our health department to do all that, and ultimately everything we're doing is, of course, to keep all of us healthy and safe, and we will absolutely continue to do that and remain proactive and remain operating out of an abundance of caution when we're getting these results back. So that 259 number of active cases does now reflect those adjustments. So although that is the update at Woodland Pond, which is good news, we are overall still seeing an increased number of active cases throughout the county, with no particular other clusters that are significant from within those numbers. In terms of the new positive infection rate, that's something that I always talk about as really the key metric. Good news here, in the last 48 hours, we have tested 1,835. We've tested 1,835 residents and had only 15 new positives from within that. So that is a 0.82%, well under 1% new infection rate over the last 48 hours. So we did see that spike over 2% earlier in the week and really last weekend. Very encouraged to see that now come back down under 1%, and our goal and all of our collective task really is to keep it at or below 1%. Ideally, of course, we're aiming for 0%, but we know that until we have a vaccine, we're going to be kind of doing this back and forth with the virus and just trying to keep it contained and in check, and that really takes all of us playing our parts to do that. In terms of hospital capacity going forward, we remain in very good shape here with, again, 6 in the hospital now and more than sufficient need for the both immediate and long-term needs as well. Once again, please continue to take this seriously, continue to follow the precautions. Please continue to wear those masks, maintain the distancing, wash hands, and use hand sanitizer. These are, again, relatively simple and easy techniques that all of us can use, proven over and over by the science and recommended by all of our health experts, including our health commissioner. So please continue to do that and encourage others to do that, especially as we head deeper into the fall and into the winter, as we're seeing increases around the country and around the state. So that's really the COVID update for today. The other thing that I wanted to do was update you all on the other big thing happening here in the county, which is national and of course local elections happening. Particularly wanted to share how our early voting efforts are going. Once again, this is only the second time that New York State has ever had early voting, and it's the first time for a presidential election. So we have seen an unprecedented wave of turnout for early voting. Just to give you a sense of some of the numbers, we have now crossed the mark. This is as of last night, so this isn't counting any of the data from today, Thursday. But as of Wednesday night, we had crossed over 15,000 early voters. In fact, it's closer to 16,000 early voters, as well as we've had record-setting absentee mail-in numbers. We've already received well over 12,000 absentee ballots back, with a lot more coming, and of course they'll be received up through and even after the actual election day next Tuesday. So when you combine all of those numbers and you compare that, we've had nearly 30,000 votes already received, which is over 20% of all registered voters. So I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but just to put this in context, thanks to our early voting sites and our expanded mail-in and absentee ballot, we've allowed almost 30,000 people to already safely cast their votes in the upcoming elections. And that represents over 20% of all of those registered in the county to vote. So that is the good news, is that people are excited to vote, people are turning out to vote, and they have multiple options to do so. As I talked about, though, we have had challenges with the early voting sites. Just as a reminder, here are the current hours and schedule for early voting. We have 5 sites across the county. These are the hours that are currently approved and up and running. So today, once again, on Thursday, polls opened at noon and will stay open late through 8 p.m. for those that might need to go after work. I'll put up the map in a second, and then tomorrow it's again 9 to 5, and over the weekend currently the hours are from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. However, as I talked about on Tuesday, myself, the chair of our legislature, and several others have now strongly urged our Board of Elections, which is the body that ultimately makes this decision and has to approve this. We've strongly urged our Board of Elections to expand this so that we can cut down the wait times. We've had in some cases upwards of 3-hour-long wait times for early voting. So the Board of Elections, which has 2 commissioners, one Democrat and one Republican, they ultimately need to approve this, and I am strongly urging them to immediately approve additional voting sites, at least 1, if not more, so we could go from 5 to 6 or even more voting sites, as well as to expand the hours, especially this weekend. Right now, it's only 5 hours each day from 10 to 3. If we could expand those hours and give more options for people to vote, it would bring down the lines, it would let more people vote safely, and then, of course, it still leaves Tuesday, the main event on Tuesday, for people to vote at their regular sites. There has been, I've just learned, actually an emergency lawsuit filed by several voters and candidates that are on the ballot in Ulster County that will hopefully get decided in the next 24 hours or so. The lawsuit is basically saying that the Board of Elections is currently violating New York State election law, which mandates that the wait time only be up to 30 minutes, and we've clearly exceeded that. So the lawsuit is asking for a legal order to expand those sites and force the Board of Elections to expand those sites. So I know that's kind of in the weeds, but I want everyone to know that myself and everyone involved is pushing the Board of Elections to really address this problem that we're hearing, especially on a day like today and heading into a cold weekend. We really need to cut down that wait time and make it easy and safe for everyone in the county who does want to choose to do early voting. So we will continue to push and fight on that, and I ask you all to also support and encourage the Board of Elections to take action on that as well. This is not a unique problem in Ulster County, of course. We're seeing this across New York State and in New York City. We're also seeing nationally record-setting numbers for early voting and absentee voting, largely driven by COVID, but also driven by very high enthusiasm in general about the elections. So that is the update there. Once again, I really want to thank all of our election workers and those that are doing this work, that are putting themselves at some risk to make sure all of us can vote with multiple options and to do it safely and responsibly. So thanks to all of our election workers. Thanks, as always, to all of our frontline workers, who from our healthcare workers to delivery workers, food workers, journalists, first responders, law enforcement, and so many others. Thank you for what you've done to get us to this point. We know we're not through it, but I hope and I think we are definitely through the worst of it. And we will continue to stick together. We'll continue to have each other's backs and really take care of each other, as I know this community has done and can do. So thank you for tuning in. Our next update, actually, we are not going to do an update on Tuesday because that's election day and we want to make sure everybody has a chance to vote. So we won't be doing a formal update next Tuesday. Between now and Tuesday, though, again, please, if you haven't already, exercise your right and responsibility to vote. Here's a map with the voting, early voting locations. And on Tuesday, November 3rd, it'll be all of the typical countywide sites where you would normally vote. So there are dozens of voting sites on the actual election day. As always, especially in this period where we are seeing a little bit of COVID resurgence, please continue to, think about not just yourself and your loved ones, but the whole community, the vulnerable among us. Continue to wear masks and distancing and hand washing, all those precautions. And our next official update will be a week from now on Thursday, the 5th of November. But if there's anything breaking, of course, we'll hop on and update you between now and then. I want to thank the Radio Kingston team and Diane and Manuel, as always, for helping us keep you all updated. stay warm and dry and safe and healthy and be resilient, and we will see you soon.